Welcome to another edition of the Eddrick Show. I am your host, Eddrick Jerome. And as always, we promise you intelligent conversation with interesting people. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button as we continue to grow this thing from the ground up. You can also find us on Instagram at Eddrick Show. Today's guest is a fearless artist who is not afraid of shining a spotlight on controversial issues or topics. His first book, the critically acclaimed Black Passenger Yellow Cabs, a memoir of exile and excess in Japan, is an erotic auto-ethnographic memoir exploring the socio-psycho-sexual dynamics of modern-day Japan, yet it is also a detail of his own personal journey from self-destruction to self-actualization. Stefen is also a talented playwright and actor. He wrote and starred in the autobiographical one-man play, Doodu Boy, The Search for Love from Cesspool to Sushiland, and it was described by the Santa Monica Press as, and I quote, a piece so compelling, so beautifully structured and played with such raw honesty that it transcends the boundaries of the theater walls. Stefen performed Doodu Boy on stages in California and off-Broadway in New York City. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Stefhen Bryan to the Eddrick Show, and we'll discuss his latest piece, the short film River Mama, which begins pre-production this July. Stefen once again dives headfirst into controversial subject matter that is compelling, frank, and necessary. Stefen, my old friend from years ago, man, it's good to see you. How you doing, man?
Thank you. Good to see you too. Good to see you too. You must be using olive oil because you haven't aged in 10 years.
You know, it's if you think old, you'll be old, man.
Yeah,
so you gotta,
that's so true. That's
mind
so true.
over matter. Mind over matter.
So thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me.
No. When I saw I know you've been, and we'll get into the, you'll start pre-production pretty soon. But when I saw that you were actually getting into the fundraising stage, I wanted to have you on. First of all, because I haven't talked to you in a while. You're such an interesting dude, and secondly, to talk about River Mama, which is again going to be a piece that you are putting it out there for people to digest and think about, and it's challenging. So let's get into it. So first of all, tell us about the concept and the story of River Mama.
Okay, so River Mama started as a feature script in 1999. I wrote the feature script originally titled Only Begotten in 1999, and I started October 12th, 1999, and I finished the first draft New Year's Day 2000.
Wow.
And it's been, since then, it's been rewritten about 120 times. So, and when I started it, it was way ahead of its time, man. People, shopping it around, and it was when Boys Don't Cry came out with Hilary Swank.
Mm-hmm.
And the response was, Stefen, this is really profound, but we have one Boys Don't Cry, and can you tone it down? Can you make it into a comedy? Can you, yo mama, what's up? It's some, can you jive it some? Can you just, it's just too thick and too profound and too poignant, and we're not ready for this. Can you do something with it? And I said, no, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not gonna, sorry, niggerize it like you want me to. I'm not gonna yo mama it. I'm not gonna, this is not, how to be a player. This is serious content. This is a serious issue, and I'm not gonna do anything with it. And if I don't make this film ever, I will be perfectly happy with that, because I'm very happy having written it. So it started out as a feature. The feature was adapted to a novel and then readapted to a feature titled Birdsucker Lane. And we tried to raise the funding for Birdsucker Lane, which is probably like around $900,000, and we couldn't. And so I decided to write a short based on River Mama, Birdsucker Lane. And the objective is to make the short and use the funds and the notoriety and the attention garnered from the short to make the feature Birdsucker Lane. And so this is where we are. But this has been in the making for 23 years now. I'm not riding on the bandwagon of the LGBT issue. This was written 23 years ago. Yeah.
And as I said in my opening, you have a knack for taking subject matter that some would find controversial or whatever, but putting it and presenting it in a way that allows people to digest it, think about it. You are able to find the humor and the beauty in some of these things. So especially, from tragedy. So maybe tell us a little bit about the story itself and what it's all about.
So the story is about a guy in Jamaica. I mean, I'm from Jamaica, so you find that a lot of my stories are personal, and they encompass my upbringing and my experiences. So it's very personal. So the story is about a guy who was raised by a pastoral father, a Bible-toting, hellfire and brimstone pastor father in Jamaica, and his mother died, and he was raised on a church commune with his pastor. So he married a woman and he has a son, but he was having a relationship on the DL, on the down low. So no one, of course, born and raised in Jamaica, A, and B, in this environment, his father's a pastor, a preacher. He was definitely not going to reveal his sexuality to anyone, but his father walked in on him with his male lover, and he was outed. To make a long story short, things are not very good for the LGBT community members in Jamaica. So he was outcast, and he ended up trying to get asylum. And so he gets in the wheel well of an airplane, thinking he's going to Florida, to America, but he ends up in the UK. And the story, I don't want to give it away too much. Sure. The story gets even deeper then, because yes. But in the end, he prevails, or she prevails, because she becomes a woman and she gets custody of her son. And, like I said, I don't want to go into too much details about it. Of course. It's very dramatic. It's super high drama. People are going to be angry and happy, and it's going to evoke a lot of emotions. And that's the objective. That's my work. That's what I do. I get thrills out of evoking emotions out of people. If you're not emotional after you see it, my work has not been done. So.
Understood. Definitely understood. Obviously, when you have a story like this and you want to present it as a short film, there are people you work with, partners, artistic partners. So who are some of the folks that are working with you on this project?
Well, I hope to be working with JFLAG, the Jamaican Forum for Lesbian and All Sexuals and Gays. I just got a message from the Trevor Foundation, the Trevor Group, an LGBT. I'm looking for my phone. I'm looking for the message. An LGBT organization in the US that's willing to come on board. I don't know how they're going to come on board, but we haven't started discussing it as yet. But they responded, and we're basically trying to find partners in the LGBT community to get this project off the ground. I don't want to have to sell my only child. It's going to be a difficult decision, but I don't want it to get to that. But I would have to sell some organs or something to get this project off the ground, because I feel very strongly about it. I think that it's something that should be, the Trevor Project. They've just sent me a message on Instagram, actually, saying, "Hey, we love this. We'd like to be involved." So looking forward to other LGBT plus organizations coming on board.
You mentioned that you grew up in Jamaica, and I'm interested to ask you, how did growing up in Jamaica and then ultimately immigrating to the United States, how do you think that shaped your perspective?
Now Japan.
And now Japan, that's right, because as we speak, he's currently in Japan. He lives in Japan, and it's actually tomorrow as we as we record this.
Yes, you're talking to me in the future.
Yeah, man, we were trying to work on the times to do this. I'm like, okay, if we do it this time, my time, and your time, so it's all good. Yeah. We got it together. But my question is, how did growing up in Jamaica, immigrating, and ultimately, coming of age really in the United States, now living in Japan, how did that shape your perspective as an artist? Because I would imagine you've been involved in so many different cultures and things like that.
Well, Eddrick, I really didn't consider myself as an artist. I really, to be honest,
you're an artist. Yes, you are.
All right. Okay, yeah, I guess I am. But I didn't really think about being an artist. I didn't know I was an artist. I just, I grew up on this church cult, and it was extremely restrictive. I couldn't even go to the fence, to the wall. So I couldn't go and interact with the outside world like normal children would. So I grew up observing. I grew up nurturing the talent, the skill of observing, of social observation. And so that's all I did in my childhood. I was either daydreaming or observing. And because I was able to observe a lot, I started putting things on paper. I started writing and I started questioning things. One of the influences of River Mama or Berta Kalain is the fact that I witnessed the beatings and burnings of two gay men when I was a child. Like in front of me, they were burned to death. One was at 9 years old and one was at 11. And I remember at 9, not being able to understand, because I was so habituated by violence. It was part of the habituation process. This is just like one of the killings that I'd seen. It's just one of the dead bodies that I stepped over on my way to school or something. When I was going to primary school, Franklintown Primary School, I remember that the Jamaica Defense Force tanks would drive slowly up the street and all the kids would come out of the tenements and walk next to the tanks because the murder rate was so high and kids were being slaughtered left and right. So I when I saw this as a child, this beating, I was totally fascinated by it, and so they explained to me that they burn him up because he's a Batman, and I like, well, so what does that mean? What does it mean? I didn't know the word gay. I just knew the word Batman. And it's like, yeah, he's go with Araman instead of Oman. And I was like, okay, I'm a kid, I'm 9 years old. I'm thinking, but why would you kill someone? Why? I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And I thought at the time, I didn't know the word barbaric, but I thought something along those lines at the time as a child. I was like, something is not right with them. I'm not happy. And I was very depressed too. I observed my environment very early that it was terrible. And I was extremely depressed and suicidal from 4 years old. So I was like, I wanted to get out of that because I didn't like these people that I was around, that if they could kill someone just because of that. I mean, I could see if when he steals something, he took something from you, or, Tifio Kiar or something, then maybe you could beat him up and kill him. But he's got nothing to do with you. He's not going to touch you. He's not going to interact with you. Who cares about that? And so that's the kind of the birth of this project.
Yeah. You mentioned your child earlier, and so I would imagine being a child and seeing some of those horrific things that you've seen, and you mentioned some of the trauma that you've experienced. In addition to writing, what are some of the other ways you were able to deal with that trauma, especially as a child, man?
Decades as an adult, decades of therapy, man. Decades of cognitive behavioral therapy. More recently, 2.5 years ago, years of acceptance and commitment therapy. But I didn't deal with it very well, Eddrick. I was suicidal. From 4 years old. 4 years old, I expressed to my mother that I wanted to roll off the bed and die. And she proceeded to beat the crap out of me and then dragged me down to the preacher, because we lived literally on top of the church. So we dragged me downstairs for the preacher to, quote unquote, exorcise the demons out of me. So I didn't deal with it very well. I dealt with it through daydreaming. I spent every waking moment of my childhood daydreaming, and that's how I coped. And I made a first attempt, which I talked about in my show, Doodu Boy, at 9. And I continued to make attempts until a long time, even after going to the States and getting my driver's license. Oh God, it got crazy. So I didn't cope. There was no means of coping. There was no means of getting help in that environment. We're talking about the ghetto. We're talking about the garrisons in Jamaica. We're talking about, this is not Chi-Town. This is not Chicago. That Chicago now looks like Beverly Hills compared to this. So there was no, there was no, you want to kill yourself? That's blasphemous. You get beaten for that. Beating is the only solution. So no, I didn't cope with it very well as a child. It took its toll.
Let me put a pin in that real quick, because I want to touch on the mental health aspect of what you had to go through in the therapy, because we're coming, and we were talking earlier, we're coming out of this COVID world where a lot of our young people and others are really struggling with mental health today, not from trauma, maybe as something that you've experienced, but just in general with things being shut down, rite of passages not being the norms. So having gone through years and years of therapy, as you mentioned, what would you say to folks who might be experiencing some and might need some help because of what we've just gone through for the past 2 years?
I would strongly suggest therapy. Psychotherapy works. It worked for me. It wasn't God. It wasn't the Bible. It wasn't the Quran. It wasn't religion. It was therapy and exercise. So, I was severely depressed from early childhood. And during my adult years, I think my last year at UCLA, I was like around 30. I started seeing a psychiatrist. In my second to last year at UCLA, I started seeing a psychiatrist, and they started, because by then, I was an adult, and now I know really how to commit suicide. Now I know what is going to actually make this final. I'm intelligent now. I don't have to experiment with driving a car, 100 miles an hour. I can finish it. So, but I went to a psychiatrist, and I got some medication. I was prescribed everything: Paxil, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, all of them. And they all made me more depressed and suicidal. And as I wrote in Black Passenger, one of my friends, a Trinidadian guy, Ricky Marciano is his name. If he's out there listening, Ricky, he literally dragged me to the gym. And, Ricky is a military guy, 70 kills under his belt. His mental health is definitely definitely very affected by his experiences in the military. Dragged me in the gym because he wanted a workout partner, and I was just too ashamed. I couldn't say to him that I don't want to go to the gym, because when you're depressed, the last thing you want to do is exercise. So to save face, I went to the gym with him, and he started me on this regiment of 30 minutes of cardio, hour and a half of weights every day, and it first started out 10 minutes of cardio, then 20 minutes and 30 minutes. And every day I went to the gym, I said, I'm going to tell Ricky to go screw himself. I'm not coming back to the gym. I'm not doing this anymore. But I just didn't have the balls. I didn't have the nads, Eddrick, to tell him. And when I finally, after a month, remember, 30 minutes of cardio every day, hour and a half of weights, upper body, lower body, alternating. So it's a total of 4 or 5 days a week at the gym. And when I finally, after a month, developed the strength and the wherewithal to tell Ricky, look, dude, I'm not coming back to the gym with you again. I don't want to do this. After 30 days, it was like I describe it as like being ejected from a doomed aircraft. Literally, that was the feeling. And no meds could do that. And I came out of the straitjacket, and then I became addicted to exercise. And so then I became addicted to, and then I became healthy. And then I started traveling and started doing things and started focusing. It's not cured completely. I do get bouts. If I don't exercise now, I still, I have to run to the gym when I feel it coming on. So I strongly suggest to anyone out there who has, especially, and remember that the level of exercise that you're going to need to overcome this is dependent on the level of your depression. If your depression is severe, like mine is or was, you're going to need to do some Olympian shit. Okay? You're going to, just to walk around the block or a jog is not going to do it. You're going to need to exert some energy. You're going to get the endorphins flowing. It's going to take a lot to get the endorphins flowing. Then you're going to be impatient. You're going to think, this is not working. I'm done with this. I don't want to do this, because that's exactly how depression works. We don't want to exercise when we're depressed, but stick with it. I guarantee you, within 30 days, you're going to feel like billions and billions of dollars, not just $1 million.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's an important message that, we need to make sure that everybody's hearing, because there's a lot of pain out there right now.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
People,
Absolutely.
It's manifested itself in just behaviors, and you see things on how people are behaving with each other. So thank you. And as I mentioned before, you are open, you are honest, you're raw, you let folks know the real, and real artists do that. So yes, you are an artist, sir. Just make sure you call yourself that.
Thank you.
Let me ask you now a question about, you mentioned your daughter that hopefully you won't have to sell to fund this project. But how has fatherhood affected your worldview, and what impact, if any, has it had on your writing, or just going from where you've been as a child and an adult and adolescence and so forth and so on to now you have a child? How does that change your perspective, if it has?
Oh man, Eddrick, you have no idea. In fact, I'm writing about that now. That's what I'm writing about now. But dude, fatherhood is deep, man.
It is.
It is. It's not for the weak at heart. You know, so I became a father. You know, I have a baby mama issue. You know what I mean? We all have that. Dysfunctional African descendants of slave culture. So I have a daughter who's 34, and but we don't communicate because, you know, but this is more functional. This is let me tell you something. Okay. I was not going to talk about this until I finished writing about this, but I was in the process of getting a divorce when I impregnated my wife. So I returned from Japan to California because my wife was still in California. I went back to Japan. I returned to get a divorce, get it over with, and go back to Japan, and actually remarry or marry my girlfriend in Japan. And I impregnated my wife. And so here's my wife now. She, you know, at the time she was 39 years old. We had 6 days to terminate medically, right? And if we didn't terminate medically, then we wouldn't have terminated at all. So we had to go through some serious thinking. I had to go through some serious thinking because my wife, you know, she said, I don't want to be a single parent. I'm not into that. But I'm getting old and we have history. We've been together for 20 years now. We've known each other 20 years and this might be my last chance to have a child. And I'm thinking, well, I want to get a divorce. I mean, this is not the plan, even though it was my responsibility. I take full responsibility for impregnating her. So I say that to say this child, so that in the end, after a lot of therapy again, acceptance and commitment therapy, which is part of the cognitive behavioral therapy, which worked very well. You know, I learned things like positive sentiment override. And that's what I implement daily until it sort of became just natural. You know, it took some time. So we decided, okay, I'm going to have the child and I'm going to stay with you. We're going to stay together and we're going to raise this child. And this is going to be the absolutely most challenging and difficult thing I've ever encountered in my decades alive. And it is the most difficult experience I'm having ever. In fact, sometimes, you know, now I see why motherfuckers walk. I know, I know why. I know why dudes walk, and I know why people abuse their children. So, you know, I'm not going to judge anybody. I don't condone abuse of children or of anybody, but I get it. And if you have not overcome your trauma in your own personal childhood, you are going to be an abuser. You are going to lash out at your innocent child. So, to answer your question, it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. One of the things, the first thing I set out to do with this child is to ensure that the bond with her is greater than anything else, greater than the bond between her and her mom even. And so I was physical with her from birth. I was reluctant to be in the room at birth. But I was there. I had her from birth. And from birth, she was in my hands. Like from birth, I was handling her every day. You know, I had to walk around for miles and miles to get her to sleep when she was a baby. It got to the point where she couldn't sleep anywhere else but on my chest and in my arms. So I have to get up in the middle of the night and go walk with her in the middle of the night. So from birth. And what that did was it created this bond where I'm having these experiences that I didn't, you know, I'm sociopathic. I hail from a sociopathic mental state. So in fact, the title of the book is from I forgot the title. But it implies that, you know, a sociopath journey to becoming a good father. So it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, to literally observe my childhood and intentionally and make a grand effort to go in the opposite direction and to be a mindful parent and to understand that, no, your child, contrary to what your upbringing tells you and the people in your upbringing told you, your child is not trying you. Your child is not testing you. Your child is not doing anything to, you know, piss you off. That's just how babies, toddlers are. So if your child poured water on the computer, on your laptop, on the keyboard, and it fried your computer, she's not a bad child. That's what they do. And that kind of patience, you need a lot of patience. I'm sure you have kids, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I have two daughters, man. They're older now, but yeah, man. And I think what you're getting at, and the way I view it is, there's grace, forgiveness, humility, and realizing that child is a blessing and that it's an extension of you. It's not you. Yeah. It's not you, but everything around and in that child's world is affected by you.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome responsibility, man. And for me, I was blessed. You know, my wife and I have been together for a long time, and we raised our daughters together. And so we've had that partnership. But to your point, becoming a father for me, because as you know, I don't know if we've talked about this, but and I did a short film about this, but you know, my older brother, who passed away from AIDS, he died 2 days after my first daughter was born.
Wow.
So when you talk trauma and going through it, so within the span of 72 hours, I went through the birth and death cycle. Exactly. And I dealt with the guilt of, am I too happy because my daughter is born? Should I be more, you know, it messed with me, man. And like you know, I had to seek out, you know, professional help and make sure I got through things. And, you know, and I share that, and I'm freely open with that because I agree with you. It is important, especially our culture. We have to get over that stigma of not reaching out. But again, fatherhood changed everything. It changed the way I listen to music. It changed the way I write. It changed the way I see the world. Suddenly things that were so important are no longer important. Right. And the things that it's the little things, like you said, when your daughter's sleeping on your chest, you can't buy that. You can't fake that. You can't create that some other way. That's a natural feeling, I think, especially when fathers have daughters, because I have daughters. Right there with you, man. And so congratulations, you know, on
thank you.
on getting through that. And you have a little one now, right?
She's 2.5.
Oh man.
She's oh my God, dude.
Man.
About 3 months after we moved to Japan, the police was called to our apartment twice. Okay. So, you know, when we were in California, we lived out in the woods in, you know, West Marin, you know, in the forest.
Sure.
She'd scream, nobody heard us, but we knew that once we get to Japan, we're gonna be in an apartment. So to make a long story short, we got here, man, and the police came. She has this scream on her. And she had it since birth. Like she's definitely an opera singer. She had this scream on her, and she screams for like an hour and a half straight. You would think she's being beheaded. So the police comes knocking on the door. 6 of them came, and when we opened the door, she ran outside in her Pampers, and I said, she's okay. You see, we're not trying to. Then the second time, 12 of them came.
Ooh.
And one, they call a female officer to come in to take off her clothes and inspect her.
Oh, wow.
But Eddrick, if I heard a child crying the way my child cries, I would call the military. I'd call the Navy. I'd call everybody, because I'm not mad at them. I'm just trying to show you how this child is.
Sure.
She's not, she's not for, but the thing that I'm surprised about, I have these feelings for her that I didn't even imagine that I could have for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I go to work, I miss her. When she goes to bed at night, I miss her. And now she keeps me up, and I haven't slept in 2.5 years. But now, before she was born, I think there's nobody on the planet that's worth my sleep. I would, whatever it is. If it's a dog, I'm putting her down. I'm putting him down. Nobody's worth my sleep. And so now it's okay. I'm not sleeping well. My cognitive skills have diminished dramatically. I can't write. I can't do anything. I can't remember anything. And it's like, yeah, I miss her. I never thought that was possible. I never thought I could do that. I could generate these feelings for her and this kind of attachment.
Wow.
It's a first. It's a first to me.
Well, thanks for sharing your journey through fatherhood, because like I said, I know it's had an impact on your work. And so, but let me shift back now to how you and I first met, which was when you had just written Black Passenger, Yellow Cabs.
Right. Yeah.
That book was so far ahead of its time. Looking back now, the way people share and reality show, whatever, you actually had an opportunity, and you took advantage of an opportunity to shed light on themes and cultures that I don't know if anybody had ever explored the subject matter that you.
I don't think so. I think I was the first. I think I was the first African person, the first person of African descent to do it in Japan. Anyway,
right?
Now, and I was doing it before the advent of YouTube and Facebook. Well, I mean, Facebook and all those social media platforms were very embryonic at the time.
Yeah, it was just getting started.
YouTube was like brand new, and Facebook, and it was MySpace was the big thing at the time. That tells you how long ago it was.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I was the first. I mean, lots of people have come after me, but I think I was initially I was the icebreaker, and people thought I was crazy. And I thought, because what happened was I couldn't write about the sex as an African person, because then I would have been contributing to the stereotype of the Black man with his dick in his hand.
Right.
And I thought I couldn't do that, because that's not really what I want to show people. So I couldn't write about the sex without writing about the society. And then I couldn't write about the sex and the society without writing about me and how I became me and how I got to Japan and how I began to take advantage of these social dynamics and about my own faults. And like, look, basically I'm saying, look, I'm not perfect. I am an anal sphincter. I'm going to tell you that hands down. And so here's what I'm doing. And here is the reason I'm doing this. And here is the social dynamics that enable me to do this. So I think I was first. I made some mistakes with that book. I made some mistakes. It could have been more successful had I not made some serious mistakes. It was going to be republished by a major publishing house, and some things happened. And
sure, you don't have to get into it.
But I learned a lot. And I decided I'm not going to write anymore. I'm not going to write books anymore. It's going to be visual, because people don't read.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could have a whole conversation on attention span and the lack thereof. But I just, when I read the book, again, it opened my eyes to an entire society that I had no clue about as a African-American male growing up in Northern California. I didn't know about all of the nuances of the sexual politics in Japan as it relates to men and women. And it just really illuminated some really interesting themes that, I think still, of course, reverberate to this day. So looking back now, more than 10 years later, is there a chance for a screenplay adaptation, or have you thought about something like that? Because it's a great piece of work, man. It still is a wonderful, wonderful piece of work.
Thank you. It's been optioned twice. Nothing came of it. I do have some plans for a screenplay, but I want to do River Mama
Sure.
/ Birdsucker Lane first.
Sure.
And then we're gonna visit Doodu Boy, and then we'll visit Black Passenger, or maybe do Doodu Boy and Black Passenger concurrently. But yes, there is. I think for me, Black Passenger, I would like to revisit it and edit it and get it out, make some adjustments to it and an addendum but I'm so busy with
Sure.
fatherhood that
Sure.
I can't do
Sure.
anything else, because I'm an ADHD adult, right? And I'm hyper focused on this fatherhood thing. I shouldn't diminish it like that. I'm hyper focusing on being a good father to my child, and so everything else just goes by the wayside, because that's the most important thing to me right now.
Understood. We have a couple minutes left, so now let's talk about how folks can help with this project. You started a Kickstarter for River Mama. Tell us about that, and where people can get more information and how they can help you get this story out to the world.
Right, absolutely. Just go to the Facebook page. It's Kimama Productions, KIMAMA Productions. On the Facebook page, you'll see the Kickstarter campaign there. And I think we don't have a website at the moment because we don't have any funding. And so we have another 20 days left, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm still, like I said earlier, and I'm making contact with a lot of the LGBT organizations, and so far, only one has contacted me today. So there is still hope. There's a lady in Jamaica. There is also the J Flag in Jamaica that are looking to come on board. So go to the Facebook page, Kimama Productions, KIMAMA Productions, and you'll see the Kickstarter campaign there. And keep in touch with us on the Kimama Production page on Facebook.
You got it. And we'll put a link in the description when the video gets posted, so we'll be able to go right to it, click the link. And so my last question for you is, I know we didn't get a chance to go in that much detail about Doodu Boy, but is it still available on YouTube, or?
It's not available. I'm in the process of actually making a Doodu Boy website so it can be streamed, because I really miss performing it live. Of course, given the pandemic situation, I haven't been able to do that I haven't done it in about 2 years. And so what I want to do is I'm going to build a website, hopefully within the next 30 days, and make it available on the website. But for now, it's not available anywhere, because it was originally was going to be on Amazon Prime, but Amazon changed their rules, and they're not accepting any nonfiction work. And so I'm just going to make it available on my own website and stream it from there. And I'll send out an email or something, or do some kind of marketing to get people to know that it's available. But I miss performing it. I really love the thing about one of the great things about performing that piece is that every time I did it, so many people would come up to me and tell me that, look, you hit a nerve. I have a father exactly like yours, or I had experiences exactly like yours. Thank you very much for doing this. And the point I'm trying to make is that, look, we all have a story. All of us, especially if you're African descent. If you're a descendant of slaves, whether you're from America or Jamaica or wherever, there's a significant chance that you have a story. And it's marketable. You should write it and perform it and do something with it. So I encourage everyone, if you think you have an interesting story, which I think you do, write it. And don't worry about who's gonna consume it or watch it or blah blah. Just write it first, and because you have a story.
Well, sir, let me just say thank you. It's been too long. It's been way too long since we connected, and
yes,
it's good to see you. I'm glad you're healthy and happy, and doing what you do, man, which is put themes in people's faces and make them think, and it relates and it challenges people, which is what we need. My own editorial comment, I think we're going too far the other way of people being scared to talk about issues and things that we need to talk about, especially in our community. So kudos to you, man. And again, for everybody, we'll put a link to the Kickstarter. We'll put a link to River Mama. You can get all the information about how you can help them support this project. And when it's done, hopefully you can come back, man, and we can talk again.
Oh yeah,
and keep in touch, man.
Looking forward to that.
Good
Thanks
to
for having
see
me
you.
on, Eddrick.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir. This is the Eddrick Show. I am Eddrick Jerome, your host. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button. Check us out on Instagram at Eddrick Show. And of course, we always bring you intelligent conversation with interesting people. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hi, Eddrick Show. Thank you.
All right.